Good afternoon and warm welcome to all who've tuned in to today's talk from the artist. My name is Nina Shadforth. I'm the Senior Curator for Collections here at Caloundra Regional Gallery. I'd first like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on where we are both meeting today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I also recognise that Kabi Kabi and Jinnabara People's Country of the coastal plains and hinterlands of the Sunshine Coast have always been and continue to be places of cultural, social, spiritual and economic significance. Our guest today is Brisbane-based artist whose practice includes painting, street art and design. A Griffith University Queensland College of Art graduate, she holds 2 bachelor degrees, one in education and one in fine arts. Formerly an art teacher in Queensland schools, since 2010, she has exhibited widely across the country in both group and solo shows, and there's a lot of them on her CV, and has also been recipient of artist residencies, 2 in Australia and 1 in Italy, so an international residency as well. Since 2011, she has consistently been a finalist in over 30 art awards, some as multiple finalists in a few, and those awards include the prestigious Doug Moran Portrait Prize, the Clayton Utes Award, the Brisbane Portrait Prize, and not forgetting our prize this year's Sunshine Coast National Art Award with her painting Head Gardener and Bloom Ranger. Sarah Hickey, welcome to the program.
Finally,
hello, we got it. And
so
thank you for your patience. Oh, it's great to have you. I'm very excited to be talking with you, and just wanted to thank our audience for their patience in just allowing us the time to get started after a few technical glitches.
I must say too, Nina, I still teach high school students part-time. It's beautiful. It's a lovely,
well, that's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
I got that a little bit skewed. Okay, so thanks for straightening that out. So we'll launch into some questions, but firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge that you're in your studio. So stay tuned because she will give us a little bit of a tour and you'll see inside her workspace. But first things first, Sarah, how and when did you first become interested in art? Was it something that's always been part of you, or was it something surrounded by, or was it introduced to you at some point?
I think that everybody's an artist. I think it's we're born to play and experiment and create, and it's something that as we go through life, we're told we're good at something or not so good at something, and it's really sad to see people disconnect with that essence of play, and that's actually what I love about teaching still, that I get to see, kids perhaps from primary school context come through high school and think that they're not good, and then me go berserk over their line work and say, oh my God, this is beautiful, and they say, Miss, settle down. But it's I believe it's an innate part of being human, and I have a really fond memory of sitting in a sand pit and mixing the dry clay with water and getting this fluffy consistency. I know it's a weird connection, but me as a kid sort of experimenting with those elements to get this really light, fluffy consistency, I think is it's just innate to us. When I went through school, I had some beautiful mentors and teachers that encouraged me creatively. I come from a long line of accountants, and
oh wow, so you've broken the mold.
I know. So I've always naturally been interested in the arts and the dramatic arts, the making arts, the visual arts, and so I always had an affinity with that. And yes, so I sort of left creativity for a while and came back to it, and really my life's been so much happier,
Oh, that's
since then.
great to
Yeah.
hear. And so this isn't one of my initial questions, but knowing now that you come from a long line of accountants, how did that land when you sort of said that you were taking on a career in the arts?
Oh, look, I've been really lucky enough to my dad's an accountant, but I've been really lucky enough to have parents who really encouraged me to do whatever I was interested in. And I know as a high school art teacher now, there's a lot of pressure for kids to do certain subjects because they feel that they're weighted in a way that will get them a higher result. And it was around when I was at school too.
Mm,
But
mm,
I'm so thankful and appreciative of the fact I had people around me that said, whatever, I've got
that's
no
great.
skin in the game. So yeah, it's lovely. And I think I try and encourage kids to really follow their bliss, follow their heart. And there's such wealth, a wealthy, abundant arts culture,
Mm,
out there. When we were all in shutdown, we were clamoring for series and art and to be inspired, in our
absolutely.
homes. So I do believe that, yeah, it's a wonderful path to take.
Oh, that's fun. And those students would be very lucky to have you, I think. So
Oh,
just as encouraging. And so in terms of your career in the creative industries, I mean, so did you start full time as a teacher like that? That's sort of where you started, and then you kind of transitioned as an artist. Is there a moment that you sort of can recall where you sort of thought, I'm crossing over, I'm going to do this full time, I'm going to commit? So yeah, can you recall that time?
yes, that's a wonderful question. Uh, yes, I did a fine arts degree straight out of high school. I thought, yip, yippee doodah, I can go to the pub whenever I want. Nobody's going to check up on me. And so it was a really interesting experience. And they said to us when we first went to QCA, look, you're probably too young for this degree. And I really agree with them now, looking back.
Yeah,
I was doing lots of experimental things at art college,
yep.
cutting up sex dolls, putting them in baking trays, pouring resin on them, putting bikes in
Yeah,
kilns,
yeah,
as you do when you're at
yeah.
art college. And I really didn't, I really didn't know why I wanted to create, or the why of making.
Mm,
And
mm,
so, and I wanted to have, um, uh, I wanted an abundant life as well. And so there was this sense, if you weren't sort of directed towards getting grants, et cetera, then really you had to find your own way
mm.
through that industry. And so I decided, right, I'll spend a couple of years. I nannied overseas, really disconnected with my creativity,
Yep.
and went to went and did an education degree, and then worked 5 years full time in a high school, and I loved it as an art teacher, but
Mm,
I wasn't practicing myself. And then got married, moved into our first home, and a lovely next door neighbour who's a children's book illustrator said, "Have you read this book? It's a book by Julia Cameron, a New York-based writer, and
mhm.
it's called The Artist's Way." And he said, "Borrow it. I'd love to talk about art." And I said, "No, no, no, I don't have time. I'm busy." And but I read it, and it was like, a wonderful experience, a scary experience, because it was like coming out. It was like, oh God, I'm creative. We've just we've just bought our
Is-
first house. It's like,
There's
and
a
then
tick
broke.
list, and you've checked all the things on the creative list. Yeah, that's me.
That's right. And then broke the news to poor hubby, and said, I really want to give this art thing a go, because I really feel it's bubbling up inside of me. It wants to come out. And that spiritual connection to making, that
Mhm.
connection to who you are, and the onion layers of who you are, and exploring that introspective idea, but also the world around you really hit me. And so then I started to produce work again, slowly, not show anyone, just really, batten down the hatches and start to play again. And
Mm.
that's something that she does in that book. She really asks you to play and connect with the inner child, because I really feel like, well, there's a lot of places where art can come from, but
Mm.
for me, it's that playful inner child that's been told to sit in the corner and adult.
Yeah, yeah. But you were actually
And
going back to that day in the sandpit.
yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So yeah, that was a moment, absolutely, where I said, right, I've got to do this.
Mm.
And luckily I just worked part-time, continued to yeah, work in education, which was great.
Yeah.
But and I had the support of a partner, and I think a lot of creatives who are successful have that. And it's not
Mm.
necessarily a partner, it might be a parent or a friend that just says, keep going,
Yes, that's
you know,
so
as
true, isn't it? Just
yeah,
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 because that just, it's a sense of relief that that's something that you don't need to worry too much about, in
yes,
terms of, well,
yeah,
I it gives me that headspace to work on my practice.
absolutely.
And that, it's a wonderful position to be in, and to be able to
Yeah.
also sort of share your practice, your experiences with students too, sort of emerging minds and creative minds that learning from your experience. I think, as I said before, they're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Um, so in terms of your practice, we've got your studio, a little bit of a hint of
Oh
your studio in
yes,
the background. So can we go for a little tour? And while you're moving around, could you just
sure.
talk us through a normal day in the studio? How you
Right.
start, what you do, what you work through.
One of my painting heroes is Lucy Cullerton. I love her painting, and I just love who she is.
Yeah.
And I went and listened to a talk of hers at Jan Murphy, and she said that she paints for the first half of the day,
Hmm.
and then she relaxes then after that, or she does gardening, or she's on the farm. And I thought, oh, that's great, because there's this idea that you're flogging yourself from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And there
Yeah.
are artists out there that do go into the
Yeah.
zone and really need long spaces. But I am such a hedonist when it comes to painting. I love it. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So
Good
I'll
on
I'll
you.
actually
Yeah. I
I'll have
think.
I'll have a slow morning, on the days that I'm not working. I
Yeah.
work 2 days a week at high school, and then um, slow morning, really get into the mode, and then really at midday I come down and I have a play, and
Yeah.
sometimes that is moving around my paints, and sort of looking at the work again. Like, the work
Yeah.
generally hangs around for a long time, and even when I think, yep, that's finished, I will. I'll need that time to sort of look at it in my peripheral to say, no, you're not quite finished yet. I've got another
Yeah.
idea for you. You know, that idea. So yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tend to just spend maybe 3 hours. If I'm really excited about the painting project, then I really need to see it through. And so
Yeah.
that will be on the weekend. I'll just go a bit nuts and get down here. But yeah, I try to keep it as fun and as playful and as fresh as I can. I did a painting course in down in Sydney as part of the National Art School, and it was
Yeah.
paint like a Dutch master. I thought I'd go nuts, but
Okay.
yeah, and I realised the tutor came round and she said, "Oh, you want to get to the dessert before you eat the main course?" And I said, "Yes, yes,
She
I
read you well.
do." So
Oh,
yes,
that's funny. Oh,
this
look.
is this is a new gentleman coming up over here.
Yeah.
My work is really comprised of usually still lives and gods and goddesses, goddesses in particular,
Yeah.
um, working with a lot of collaging. I'll
Hmm.
actually try and get I'll walk. Come with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's have a look. It's
I'll get some
great
collaging
space
just
that you
so I
have
can.
there.
It is. It's
Fantastic space.
fantastic. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, when we first moved in, I wasn't practicing, of course.
Hmm.
And now it's just this space I can, leave and get messy and then close the door and I'm upstairs again. I'll put
That's
this
a
down
great
just
thing.
so I
Yeah.
can
Okay. Sure. Yep.
so I can
We're
show
good.
and tell. Yes. So usually I work with you know, collaging of vintage. Oh, yes, you can see it a bit better
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vintage, vintage imagery that I may or may not sort of work over the top of. I love the historic connection to these souls, and usually they're anonymous, and I can animate them with a life that they may not have had,
Yeah.
and
I love that.
yeah, that connection. And usually it's a calling or a connection to what's going on with me as well, on a deep level.
Hmm.
And in particular looking at archetypes, um, uh, tarot card symbolism, all of these setups of what gender means, what all of these mythologies around um, and histories.
Yeah.
I love making up a story, and there's something really wonderful about that. Um, I will get to this.
Okay.
This, but the collages are very, very different. Usually, they turn out quite differently to the actual painting. There's another
Okay.
thing that happens in that painting process. So that lovely man in the background
Yeah.
over there, he was originally this sort of
Oh, yeah.
Swedish football player,
Yep.
and I've got a moustache, and yeah, in
You've made
particular
it
at the
more
moment.
distinguished with the moustache.
I have. And so there's been this lovely thing that's happened recently with working with vintage men, vintage footballers,
Okay.
where I've taken away the football and put, plants and animals and birds and floral arrangements. And there's something really lovely about that because, I'm married to a gentleman, and I think it clashes with, this idea of masculinity. I see it even at school teaching that you have
Hmm.
young boys who are growing into men. And so, I think that there's a lack of history, particularly when it comes to female artists, giving their perspective on men,
Hmm. Hmm.
painting
Hmm.
men. I think
Yeah.
it's always been painting women and their perspectives on women. And
Yeah.
so it's
More
lovely
so.
to
Correct.
have, this opportunity to paint these beautiful men, kind, um, connected with some traditionally feminine attributes, you know. So
It,
yeah, it's lovely. It's a joy.
it's quite a yeah, it's a quite a juxtaposition, isn't it, to what we're conditioned. And just so if you're not familiar with it, this is the painting, Head Gardener and Bloom Ranger. And so was he a footballer as well?
No, he wasn't actually, and originally my collage, and I wish I had it here. It actually had text on it, and it had soft
Oh,
in text on the top. I'll
that's
see if I can find it. But
it's so is there a play on words with the titles? That's the other thing because
yes, yes. Yes, look, as he was growing, as he was making, I'd like to tell you that it was a very logical, straightforward map of I'm going to do this, and it ended up like this. It's it was, you know, in a roundabout way, I did a collage of this lovely bearded gent, and of course exploring gentlemen, you know, signs of masculinity with the facial hair, and
Hmm.
then you know, combining with some of those symbols and ideas
And
associated with the
the
blooming
flowers,
gums,
the
of course.
blooming.
Yeah, and I'm a big Margaret Preston fan,
Yeah.
you know, and to see her blooming gums, we've got a blooming gum in our backyard, and I get giddy when it starts to bloom. So I thought, beautiful, Margaret Preston, and golly gosh, you look like Ned Kelly, and isn't that an interesting legacy that we have in, you know, Nolan's
Mm.
perspective of Kelly and this sort of violent square head, you know,
Yeah,
sort of
quite.
inhumane in a way. And all this
Yeah.
mythology we have around Ned. And I just loved the idea of a gentler Australian legend. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a great work, and congratulations on being a finalist too. But I just
Oh,
wanted to
brilliant.
expand the conversation a little bit because
Mm,
that and the ones I think behind you are they also from the Gentle Gods collection? So you've had a
yes.
series, which I love the title of that as well, and conceptually, um, you know, they're imbued with these idols or these men from vintage times that and putting them in context of a much more feminine kind of gentle persona. So what sort of motivated you with that series, Gentle Gods? So
Well, you know, I believe there's like a stream of consciousness, a magical thing that happens when you work with collage. And no one, you could have the same collaging materials in front of 30 different people, and they will interpret and make placements
yeah.
very differently. And so I love working with that collaged aspect. And so to move from working with usually lots of female goddesses that are accompanied by ferocious animals, you know,
Mm.
large birds, you know, lions, tigers, you know, leopards. And that their presence with this animal, it reminds me of the strength card in tarot, which is, you know, this female figure sort of stroking a lion, and
Mm.
it's that potential power, I think, that I was really interested in with the
Okay.
females. But the men, I think, you know, I loved the idea of combining them. Like, you know, I love the idea of, sorry, football fans, but you know, like you know, taking a footy player from you know, that era, or that, you
Yeah.
know, plucking them from a past, because there's a nice veil with things from the past, and you can sort of, if they're anonymous, you can, have a play with what
Sure.
their lives and everything else was like, and replacing them with being connected to the natural world, and with cradling birds and showing this compassionate care and sensitivity. And then, with some of those traditionally femme symbols of floral, insignia and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I think there's a lovely tension there, because I think we still have um, a lot of, well, I mean, look at today. There's another talk on today that's probably a little bit bigger than this one, and that's between Trump and you know,
And Kamala.
Kamala.
Yeah.
So, that old idea of masculinity is still out and about. Hello,
Absolutely.
that
Mm.
exists in Trump's sort of, and so it's really lovely to have a perspective. All I can do is paint my perspective,
Yeah.
and I'm lucky enough to know and love, beautiful, gentle men, and they're not always represented,
Mm.
and so it's lovely, to paint that. And in a way, I'm painting my husband, when I'm painting these men as well, like he, so it's lovely. And also from that female perspective to,
Yeah.
have that sort of recorded, is really lovely. And um, not everybody has that experience of a gentleman.
Mm.
And I just think that it should be painted like godlike.
Yeah.
It should be painted like a hero.
Yeah.
The guy, that is caring, compassionate, sensitive, loving,
Yeah.
supportive, encouraging, all of those sorts of things. Yeah, that
And
men can be. They are. It's
they're
just
they're there. That's
they're
for
there.
sure. And
Yeah,
and so, but certainly, sort of speaking about that through your artworks is, it's a beautiful depiction, I guess, of that concept. And I'm keen to know how, have you observed men seeing your works for the first time? Like what does that sort of, how much of an impact that would have on them in terms of seeing, a male figure and, knowing we're conditioned that male is sort of, a stronger
yeah.
figure than
These,
us and whatever, but to be surrounded by flora and nurturing nature and, that's how has that been received?
I think I would hate to even well, firstly, the first person that sees my work is George, my
Yeah,
my hubby, and so he's always an applause. He's a brilliant man, comes from a different angle with things, because he's got, that side of the brain working, which
yeah,
I get, will do maths in his spare time. But um,
lovely.
yeah, but I think, look, my work, what I've really come to know is that you either connect with it or you don't.
Yeah,
And I've manned galleries in the past where people have walked in,
yep,
they've looked quickly around, and they're out the door in 2 seconds flat. And you can't take it personally. Then there's others that just come in and really connect with it. They feel the energy. I
yeah,
believe, painting is an energy, and you either really connect with it or you don't. It's a bit like personalities. And I think the most beautiful thing I saw was my great uncle used to paint, and at his funeral, he had one of his paintings sort of resting against the coffin,
Oh,
and his energy was so alive and well in that piece.
oh, wow.
And then even interacting, in galleries, I saw my first Van Gogh in New York, and it was like he painted it last week. It was like I was having a conversation with him, energy wise,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
last week. And then I'll have others that I thought I would die in front of, and I didn't. There wasn't any connection. So I think
Mm,
art is like that. And
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and if there's an energy there, and so it's the same, male, female that interacts with the work that I produce, it will it'll either be, oh yes, that's right up my alley, or oh no.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And you're right. You just can't take it personally, because it is
No.
such an
Yeah,
individual, personal thing. So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and some will connect, some won't, but that's okay,
yeah.
you know.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
um, I just wanted to just quickly touch on the residency. So, and if we've got time, just a bit about the street art. So,
Oh yes.
yeah,
Oh yes. Well,
love to know a bit
my
more.
favorite. Sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. My favorite part of being an artist and some of the best experiences are through travel. And so I got this experience to travel to Sicily,
Mhm.
and I love painting large.
Yep.
And so to stretch my limbs and really, well, yeah, paint these deities, I suppose. Yeah, it's so I got the opportunity to go to this town, Graniti, in Sicily,
Mm.
and they are wanting to create like an art tourism in a way in their town. So
Mhm.
because the younger generation are leaving for the mainland to get jobs, etc.,
Yeah.
they're finding that yeah, Sicily needs people. Um, so they wanted to paint these murals through the town to make it a real destination where people could live and perhaps, uh, work as artists as well. And
Yep.
so, yeah, I got the opportunity to paint the outside of
Beautiful.
this place, and she's called Gaia of Graniti, and it was a magic experience. Interesting. There's cultural differences as well. I didn't think
Yeah.
there would be much of a cultural difference, but iconography in particular,
Mm.
you really don't mess with the goddess who's, Holy Mary, that you don't. She's cradling like a tiger, and they're a bit, you can't call her the goddess if you know maybe you can call her Gaia. That's
Oh,
connected
that's how that
to
came about. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and at one point, the first wall that I was going to paint on, they said, "Oh, they're not too sure about the imagery, so we're going to have to find another wall." And
Okay.
I lost it. I lost it. And then, I went, man, I've come all this way. And then they went, it's okay. You've shown emotion now. You're Sicilian. It's
Ah,
all right. So, yeah, it was an it was an amazing
okay.
experience. And yeah, and they were lovely. The hosts were
Yeah.
beautiful. It was an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah.
The other one was down at the Tweed Regional Gallery.
Yeah.
Margaret Ollie's setup, I mean, that was amazing. It was just such a beautiful time to connect with her and her energy with through her
Mm.
objects.
In
And
that studio, it's pretty fantastic.
that's right. And just to know that um, sometimes you do get lost in the creative process. You do, as you're painting, and things happen. There's highs and there's lows, and you think, oh, why am I doing it? Or should I continue to do it? What's the purpose? And when you see somebody like Margaret Ollie's works and that
Mm.
painting, that legacy, the beauty of a life lived through
Yeah,
art,
through art.
um,
Yeah.
just magic, and it felt like, Margaret, paint through me, it's fine.
Oh gosh, well. They both sound like amazing experiences, and sort of and you know whether it's directly influencing or sort of um, informing in some way in your practice.
Oh,
It's gold.
absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. You're absolutely hit the nail on the head then, because um, even when you're not aware of it. So we did go to New York and I saw this amazing art that I'd read about in books, etc.
mm.
And then, I came back and my boss at work said, you've for the past year been painting that trip. It's had such an effect on
Oh wow.
what you're painting. And
Yeah.
I thought about it and I said, yeah, wow, yeah, that's amazing that you can
Mm.
have that. So anything that involves travel, I've got itchy feet again. I'd love to get over and see, Europe in particular. But
Yeah.
so it's wonderful. So
Oh, look, we do have some questions from the floor, so we better get on to that. See what I mean? We just go on tangents, but it's great. So just bear with me a moment. Oh, why can't I open that one?
technology.
Yeah, I might have to. It's not even picking up. So. One is, I think I can make it out. Can you please tell us again the book that you
Oh,
referred
yes.
to earlier?
Oh, yes.
Um,
Wonderful. It's
we might
called,
put that in the
oh,
comments too, but yeah, can you tell us
sure.
what that is?
It's called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And
Okay.
it's all about unblocking your creativity and artistry. And she gets you to do morning pages and little artist dates that you can take yourself on. And don't get bogged down. I think I've spoken to people who have done it and gone, oh, I didn't do all that she asked me to, so I gave up midway. Just do what delights you,
Yeah,
and pick and choose anything that gets you back in touch with play.
yeah.
Baking a cake, gardening, doing your hair in a different style. Anything I'm an advocate for, and getting back in touch with that fire, the life in your heart, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's great. Uh Goodness, I this mouse won't actually click on the questions. So um
I can't. I'm using my phone, so I can't even help.
Yeah, we might put these questions in the chat on the
Yes.
page. So,
Yeah.
and if you wouldn't mind just
Answering them.
answering those,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah. No
And
worries.
we're pretty much wrapping up. But first, before we do, um, what's your big art dream? Have you got a big art dream? Are
Oh
you
my
living
God.
it, or is it still something up
This is
ahead?
big. This
Okay.
is big.
Can
I've
we,
got so
can you
I've got so
share it,
many
or
dreams. Oh,
you don't have to?
sure,
Yeah, okay.
sure. I mean, of course, it's the Australian equivalent of, the Oscars. It
Mm,
would be great to be in the Archibald Prize
yep.
one year. And my lovely colleague, Dave Fenolio, he is a finalist in the Sunshine Coast Art Prize as well. He's been a finalist
Oh,
twice in the Archibald Prize. And so I said, Dave, this is great because I'm getting closer to the Archibald Prize through you.
through him. Okay, well, there's something.
But
So
But really, I think living a life that's abundant and full and happy and joyous and travel and all the deliciousness that life has to offer through art, then bring it on. I think I am living the dream.
I think you
It's
are. When you look at your works and talking with you today, I definitely believe that. So congratulations once again on your finalist work in this year's Art Prize.
good.
And one thing I do have to say, I've got a plug, is that the People's Choice Award, you can still vote for your favourite, and you can either do that online or you can come into the gallery, and voting closes on Sunday, the 22nd of September. So get your votes in. And the winners announcement, which is the big night, is on the Thursday, October 3rd. And I believe we still have some tickets available. So it's our biggest night of the year. And, all our finalists will be very anxious and waiting for that announcement. So, and I wish you all the best for that too, Sarah, for that night.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you. And can I say, being a part of this prize, because I've seen this prize over the years, so it's an absolute dream to be a part of this. But also, just I think your crew was a very special crew at the Caloundra Regional Gallery, and just having these opportunities as an artist. And they're regular, to do a workshop, to have a chat is big, and you feel very supported in the process. So I'm over the moon, and thank
Oh,
you to you and
great.
your team. So
Great to
yeah,
hear. And if they're not, if they haven't seen that little announcement, I'll be sure to pass that on. And we're very grateful. You keep doing what you're doing well, and you can follow Sarah online on socials at Sarah Hickey Art on Instagram, or Sarah Hickey on Facebook, and of course sarahhickey.com.au. Did I get that
yes,
right?
yes,
Yes, but
yeah,
we can
you
put
did.
those links in the page in the chat. And if you want to learn more about Sarah's work, or see more of her work, Granger Gallery in the ACT represent her. And I believe you have something else about to happen in that gallery.
Yes, yeah, tomorrow night is the opening. So, cross fingers. They're a beautiful, Casey and Richard own the gallery, and it's a beautiful space. They've got great energy, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. And so, yes, bubbles tomorrow night. We fly out tomorrow morning.
Oh, well, that's great to hear, and I hope that exhibition, all the best for that exhibition. Look, we always with our exhibitions, as you mentioned, Sarah, we have workshops and a variety of ways that our audiences can connect with art and the artists. We have children's holiday workshops coming up, more talks online, and also an up late event next week. So these are all online. You can book online or come into the gallery and secure a place to connect with art. And Sarah, sad to say that we're over time, and it's been such a lovely chat with you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more of your work as you live that big art dream.
Thank you so much, Nina. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Right. Thanks, Sarah. All the
See
best.
you. Bye.
Bye.